folks, I'm sorry. I know I've had you waiting so long, but I am finally here to talk about the new Walking Dead universe series, The Walking Dead. Daryl Dixon coming to AMC and AMC Plus September 10th. And with that, there's going to be a new episode weekly. There's 6 episodes total. They are an hour each long. I've checked them all out. I'm here to talk about them. I am hyped. I'm here to get you hyped. And by all means, there will not be any spoilers. So I will give you things you can expect, things you can be excited for, the things I like, the things I didn't like. I'm here to break it all down here with my review of the series. And again, I am sincerely sorry for making you wait this long. So many folks reached out to me and said, when are we going to get that Daryl Dixon review? When are we going to get that Daryl Dixon review? I got it, folks, and it's right here, right now. Our favorite Daryl Dixon, played by our favorite Noman Reedus, is back with his new series now. And there's a lot to really make of this. And there's a lot of questions I know you all are going to have. You're going to want to know about Carol. You want to know, how did he get to France? You want to know about some of these new characters. You want to know about some of the other things they're going to explore. And I will tell you this: Carol questions will be answered. Daryl's family history will be answered. How did he get to France will be answered. And beyond how did he get to France, the story does explore him being in France, but also running another timeline in terms of his commute over to France and how he pretty much got drift upon shore, which we know that from the trailers and the promotional work, the teasers, all that stuff. We can see that Daryl's clearly on the raft, that he got washed upon the shore. But how did he get there? We knew when the Walking Dead, the flagship show Walking Dead was finished, when we had the series finale, we know he drove off, and we know there was a point where it was going to be the Carol and Daryl show, which would have been amazing. And I had a lot of complaints about that, because obviously with the final season of The Walking Dead letting us know all these spinoffs we were going to have, it's like, all right, well, we got we had the Rick movie at the time. Then we ended up having a Rick and Michonne series. And then we had Carol and Daryl. And then you had Maggie and Negan. It's just like, all right, so we know all these folks are going to be alive, which is great. But also it takes away that unpredictability of what the show has. So I definitely was kind of like, I'm not really liking the sort of the spoilers that was provided within the flagship show. But nonetheless, then we had Melissa say, I'm not doing it. So now we got the Daryl show, which is unfortunate, but that still leaves the question of, where is Carol? So as I mentioned, all of that will be answered. So this series does focus on the lone wolf, Daryl Dixon himself in France. And, there's going to be some new challenges. One being language, because he doesn't speak French. But there will be new walkers, new threats. And because he's a little out of his element, we're not going to see him as sharp as we usually do. So, the Daryl we know that is a true man of the land, not being at home, is not going to be able to navigate in a way that he typically has. So all these things are definitely explored and fully fleshed out in every bit of the episodes here. Now we know he left because, well, he sort of made a promise. He says he's looking for a thing, but if I understand correctly, he's looking for Rick and Michonne. This is sort of like his vow to Judith. He says, I'm going to go see where they're at and I'm going to bring them home. So, that's family. Rick and Daryl are best friends. They're brothers. So his heart was never going to let him have a community where he could just kick back and relax, knowing that his family was out there, knowing that Michonne was gone and left RJ and Judith being there. So, it's basically the next man up. Who's going to go out there to find who? And hopefully all of our favorites do reunite. And at some point, I really can't wait for the Rick and Michonne series. I think that's going to be crazy. But nonetheless, not to take away from this, I did enjoy this. I think this series definitely did some things that were very intriguing. I thought there was very interesting characters. Laurent is a character that I can't wait to talk about in a second. But yeah, we meet new characters: Sylvie, Laurent, Isabel. Those are our good guys. We meet some bad guys. I'm not really going to talk too much about them, but I will tell you what their objectives are. But we definitely meet new characters that that fits right in the heart. Like Laurent is truly one of my favorite characters. This young man definitely, by all means, does a lot of immature actions, but nonetheless, he's still pretty cool. And I like Isabel, who's a nun, but she's fond of Daryl, and I think everyone's fond of Daryl. Daryl's like that lost puppy, so with Daryl really trying to find a place to kind of set up shop for a little bit so he can make his way back to the States, Isabel's somebody he comes across that really accepts him, gets to know him, and makes him loosen up, and it's a really good dynamic between the two because we learned about her past, and I will say this, episode 2 really depicts the world in the normal state that we really haven't seen in The Walking Dead since maybe the first episode of the first series of Rick. Like, this was very normal to the point that the first 5 or 10 minutes definitely does not feel like a Walking Dead show. I was like, wait, am I watching the right thing? But yeah, we do explore her past, and her past is really interesting and really plays a part into what's happening in the series. So I'm just gonna say things get entirely messy with this character. That's just what it is here. But with that, with her being a nun, there is definitely a religious and a faith aspect to the series. Daryl is sort of like almost like a spiritual prophecy or prophet really circling around him. So like, they're going to explore some things that we haven't really seen in much. Yeah, I know we have Father Gabriel, and while that was a man of God, I feel like faith is such an important part of this series in a way that we hadn't seen it. Well, Father Gabriel was like a character, but this was like really almost like a tone for the series, so it's cool. But like, again, there's tons of communities, tons. Every episode is a new community. And it being Daryl, what could go wrong will go wrong. Every episode, Daryl gets into something, and it never looks good. So for 6 hours, best believe you're going to be worried about Daryl because it is never an easy road for him. It just never really is. But then when you talk about the bad guys, there's a level of science going on here. Everyone's looking to reset the world, which ultimately means them experimenting on the walkers. Now, this truly does tie in to that end credit scene from World Beyond. So if you had not seen World Beyond, because I know of a couple of folks skipped it, you might want to watch it, and you might want to watch it to the end of that miniseries to see that in trailer scene. It plays complete dividends in terms of what everybody's truly up to up in France, or should I say up in Europe. But even with that too, how Daryl got to France also plays a part into some of this science, shall I just say. I'll just leave it at that. But even with that, Norman is one of our favorites. He truly puts on a performance in this series. It's easy to say that Norman is Daryl, and he can be very comfortable with that. And what more does he have to prove? I think that he came out showing something. And there's a couple of scenes that really hits you in the feels. And he is in his range whenever he's ready to explore it. He can definitely amp things up as much as he needs to, and there's definitely some moments that are like really, really cool. And again, this character Laurent are very intriguing and game changing. That's just the easiest way I can put it. Now, again, with them being in France, yes, that means there is, so I say half of the characters are speaking French, which means that yes, there are subtitles. Of course, Daryl doesn't speak French, so there's no subtitles needed for him. But there is other characters who are bilingual, so you can expect that as well too. Now, you're talking about the connections to the Walking Dead universe. Of course, there's connections, and there's certainly possibilities to the other series here. You don't have to worry about that. And there's one particular episode, I want to say it's 5, that is just, it's wow. It is wow. It is very much wow. It's either 4 or 5. But yes, yeah, that's when you start to get some of the really good Easter eggs and really good connection moments, you know. Um, and again, with that, Daryl meeting Isabel and Laurent, who pretty much have to leave their home because of a threat. Daryl does what he does best, and it's protection. He has to get these folks to this location called the Nest. This is where Laurent, who is a prime interest of a lot of folks, and Isabel, his relative, I'll just say that, to get to a place safe. And with that, with Daryl doing this solid, they are willing to provide him a way to get back home. So that's kind of the motives here. And then, as I mentioned, you're getting two timelines. You're getting the current timeline, and you're also getting the timeline in terms of what was happening when Daryl ended up in France. So like you'll see side by side moments that could be a little bit confusing at times because they look very eerily the same, but obviously the situations are different. But yes, that's because there's two different timelines kind of going. Now, what I did not like was how certain episodes would end and then immediately the following episodes would not pick up immediately after the ending of the episode. So I will say, and I think it's like episode 3 to 4 in particular, where some characters are on a boat. And then the next thing you know, they're on a yacht. And it's just like, well, how did this happen? You know what I mean? And I think there's moments where you start to think like, did I miss a scene or did something happen? And certainly between episodes, which for you all, I got to binge this all together. And you have to wait by week, which you may not be that overly critical about it, but still, you're like, yeah, there's definitely like a scene or something missing. It bothered me a lot. And it's not that they haven't done this before in The Walking Dead, but like, for whatever reason, this one just was kind of like, I really feel like I'm missing something by how they just decide to like leave a blank scene for assumption. Thinking like, hey, if you keep walking straight, you'll eventually end there. But we know like in this world, like nothing's ever promised. So you just don't know. I feel like we need to see everything. You know what I mean? So yes, there's definitely small gaps of assumptions here. And there's a lot of Walking Dead tropes, the coincidental moments, the folks who, for whatever reason, don't see a walker behind them, the folks who freeze, all you get in all those things, the typical Walking Dead tropes, and you would think some of these folks that's been on the road as long as they have wouldn't be so naive to the surroundings and have no situational awareness, but Walking Dead tropes. Now, the finale, the final episodes definitely has some questionable moments, but I will say that overall, again, it is a fantastic series. And for a first season, I really can't wait to see what happens next season, or how does this start to tie in with things like, do Daryl just all of a sudden become on another series, or is there another series going to be announced, or did they just go season 2 of Daryl Dixon? But whatever it is, this first season was badass. I enjoyed it, and I really loved the score. And talking about production here, and I did love the locations that they used as well too. There's a particular location in episode 6 that was like, yes, I wholeheartedly agree with this decision. This was an amazing decision here. So there's that. Now, here's what I really wanted to talk about, folks. The ending. For every complaint that I had leading into this series, and I'm not even going to talk about what they were, but I had particular complaints. I even mentioned them in this review, but I'm not going to draw emphasis to them. You just have to connect the dots here. I'm going to say that the ending of this series truly made me yell yes out of excitement, out of joy, and I am so pumped for season 2. They nailed it with the ending with this. I cannot wait. I had complaints, especially if you go look at my Walking Dead, the final season reviews. I had complaints. And they said, well, just hold on there, sir. Don't worry. We got you in due time. And in due time was right. So listen, folks, if you had not already made the decision, certainly, without a doubt, check out The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, premiering on AMC and AMC Plus September 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's a new episode each week. There is 6 episodes total. They are an hour each, and you're going to have a time. And again, you're going to hit all those questions that y'all probably want me to answer in the comments that I'm not, such as how did Daryl get to France? You know, what about his family? What about his history? What's everybody back in the U.S. doing? You know, what's everybody, you know, in our communities that we know back at Hilltop and whatnot? What are they doing? You know, Laurent, what's up with this character? You know, these different communities here. And then Carol, all these questions will be answered. But folks, in the meantime, y'all get in the comments, let me know y'all thoughts about this review right here. Are you hyped? Are you excited? Are you finally happy that I dropped this? Let me know all that in the comments below. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.